Alright, good evening, guys. Give me a shout out in chat if you can hear me okay. So this is going to be a different stream to normal in that my 2-year-old is sleeping in another room. There's a very, very high chance I'm going to have to disappear at some point to deal with that. So I may be gone for 30 seconds, I may be gone for 10 minutes. There's nothing I can do about it. So I wanted to get in and chat about some of the lists that have been submitted to me, obviously while I've been away. And yeah, we got 4 today as always. Dex V33, Sam Milber, AJ Nichols, and Jonathan Mathis. And yeah, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Martin, Sanguinius, DK, Oscar, thanks for being here. Is making an entire system worth or armies a good idea? Just representatives, not to scale. Not entirely sure what you mean. Make an entire system of armies? Entire system? No, I'm not sure what you mean by entire system. Okay, cool. So let's have a look at decks first. I'm going to get straight into it this week as well, just because at some point I'm going to have to deal with a 2-year-old. So, alright, new list. Comments about Captain last time got me thinking. Custom Successor again. Scions of the Forge for the profile bump on the Leviathans and Redemptors, and Warded for army-wide Mortal Shrug, because there's a lot of Mortals going around my local area. I mean, there is a lot of Mortals going around in general. Scions of the Forge, I'm going to have to look this one up. I don't keep all the Successor chapters on the top of my head. Models with tactics whose characteristic can change as they suffer damage are considered to have the double number of wounds. Okay, so it's like the Iron Hands, thing, so that like Redemptors and Leviathans will still stay on higher bracket longer into the game. Good evening, Tezab. How are you doing? Is your 2-year-old not crate trained? She's not trained to sleep for very long, that's for sure. Okay. He's ditched the Librarian Dread altogether, as they've been doing a lot less work lately, and replaced him with a Colexis to open up Aboard the Witch, as well as mess with Thousand Suns and Grey Knight list of it. And yeah, I mean, Aboard the Witch, I guess, is a good pick against Thousand Suns and Grey Knights if you don't have a Psyker, and it's something that Sam showed in his tournament winning list this week, that is actually valid. It's pretty valid to just not have a Psyker now, because you can get 15 points almost automatically by picking that against Thousand Suns and Grey Knights or on your secondaries. A bounce between swapping out the Phobos Captain for a Captain with Mastercrafted Heavy Bolt Rifle. Both are doing the same job, firing Quake Bolts to boost the Dread charge and rerolls. Both have advantage and disadvantage. Phobos Captain is cheaper, which lets me take the Incursors listed here and also ignore Lookout Sir. The Captain with Heavy Bolt Rifle is expensive, meaning I have to drop the Incursors down to Assault Intercessors to fit him in, but the rifle has a longer range and importantly has a Mastercrafted Power Sword, so you can actually do something in a fight. The Phobos Captain does a great job of buffing the Relic and Tempters in the backline while still reaching out to lay down those Quake Bolts, but the Captain with the Heavy Bolt Rifle has more flexibility. Yeah, the one thing I noticed when I played with the Phobos Captain is he's terrible in melee combat. He gets like 8 attacks, but he's got like no AP, it's just like a combat knife, so he's kind of terrible. Still torn between them, especially given the switch from Incursors to Assault Intercessors it would require, so the loss of ignoring Lookout Sir. Yeah, I mean, the Phobos Captain is a weird one. If you're just going to play him as a buffer and you want a cheaper captain, then that's what I would go for. The rest is straightforward. 3 Redemptors, 2 Leviathans, 2 Relic Contemptors, and a Partridge and a Pear Tree, or in this case, a Death Company Dreadnought. Company Veterans, 2 Servitor Squads, and then Cursors, or Assault Intercessor Squad handle the OBSEC and actions. Contemptors can hold down an objective while firing effectively, so I can lock things down relatively well. The Death Company Dreadnought and a Servitor Squad often go in reserve to give me some threat. Only 8 Dreads this time, which is low for me, but I do have more CP around. Curious about taking the Reliquary of Galathmore to synergize with the Colexis. I'd like your thoughts on that too. We talked about the Reliquary of Galathmore and the Colexis before, and the general consensus was it wasn't that useful. It's going to be -3 to psychic powers within 18 inches, but it's just 18 inches. I don't know if you're necessarily going to have your character that has the Reliquary and the Colexis at the exact same point on the board. And the people that have actually tried that came back to us a couple of times and said, like, hey, we didn't feel like it was that useful. I mean, especially maybe if you're fighting against like an army that only has 1 or 2 psychers, but then the idea behind that would be to take it against like a psychic heavy army, and you're never going to be everywhere on the board, so maybe it doesn't feel that valuable. Anyway, let's get into this. I guess the other thing to consider is that with the changes that are coming, like company veterans and servitors are not going to be as good in terms of performing actions. The veterans are going to be kind of terrible. The servitors will be okay. I think Servitor Squad is going to have like a 66% chance to cast Retrieve Octavius Data, or whatever they're renaming it, which company veterans are only going to have like a 33% chance. It's pretty bad. So company veterans and servitors. We then have a Calexis. Obviously no, just the default loadout. There's no choices there. Brent's going out to hang out his Christmas life. Christmas light, sorry. Yeah, have good fun with that. Be safe. The weather can be tough this time of year. And yeah, I've heard a few stories of people falling and stuff while doing their Christmas light. So try and be safe, Brent. Okay, so we've got the Captain of the Foamless Armor with Gift of Foresight and Quake Bolts. I guess so you can almost guarantee you're hit with Quake Bolts. I mean, that's okay. I ran this Captain in Phobos Armor a few times. I didn't think he was that good. I think he's okay. I ran him with a Mastercrafted... not Mastercrafted. I ran him with the Warlord trait that gave him +1 to damage, so his rifle did like potentially 4 damage. But yeah, putting Gift of Foresight on him feels fine, but also like I feel like there's Blood Angels characters that can do Gift of Foresight, like can get a lot more value out of that than a Phobos Captain. I mean, maybe based on you saying that, it kind of makes me feel like I would probably want the other captain just so he could be some use in combat. You have a Tech Marine, Master of the Forge. He obviously has Rights of War, and I guess that's the idea. This Tech Marine, I was going to say, he's Master of the Forge, so he's upgraded to 100 points, but he has Rights of War, so he's granted an OBSEC within... he's granted an OBSEC to core and characters within 6, that's what it is. Good evening, Miguel, how you doing? We then have a squad of Incursors. Elites, we have a Death Company Dreadnought, Double Heavy Flamer, Smoke Launcher, Furioso Fist. I think this is the right way to run the Death Company Dreadnought. Keeps them nice and cheap, makes them hard to charge, and the Furioso Fists are pretty nasty at -3. The Redemptor, Stormbolters, Macro Onslaught seems fine. Sort of the standard loadout for Redemptor, how I would always recommend you run them. We then have a Vanguard detachment, more Servitors, another Primaris Tech Marine, no upgrades on this one. 2 Leviathans, both Twin Volkites, Gravflux, Siege Drill, and the Meltagun. 2 more Redemptors, same loadout as before, solid, and then 2 Relic Contemptors with the Twin Volkite coverings. So, yeah, it's like, what, 3 Redemptors, 2 Leviathans, 2 Relic Contemptors, starting on 4 CP, the 1 squad of Incursors, and the Phobos Captain. And I guess the Phobos Captain is there to give some rerolls and kind of let you reroll ones on the Contemptors and stuff. You do have 2 core units here. I guess all the Redemptors are core. So you would be able to get more value in this list if you had a Chapter Master. And I guess with the changes to the Servitors, yeah, it's a toughie. I wonder if I was going to run this list, I guess I'd probably just hang... What's the range on the Captain of Phobos Armor? I don't run him enough to know his rifle's range. I think it's 30 inches. Yeah, 30. Okay. So I guess I'd probably do what you said here, is keep the Captain and Phobos Armor back. Buff the Relic Contemptors. But I mean, you get a lot of value out of Chapter Master rerolls. I guess you've got the Calexis in there to try and do some anti-psyker. The Company Veterans in there to do some... So I mean, right now this is fine, I guess. March of the Ancients isn't that good for Blood Angels because we already are like +1 to all our wound rolls, so the additional strength that March of the Ancients gives us is very, very minor. I think in both cases it actually gives nothing, so all you're getting is +1 attack, and I don't know if Blood Angel Dreadnoughts necessarily need more attacks. If they charge, they usually have enough. So I like the Leviathans with the drill, I like the loadouts on all the Redemptors, I like the loadouts on the Contemptors. Right now I guess it's good with Servitors to perform actions and Cursors. What's probably going to need to change in this list in the next edition, or when we get the new chapter approved, is you're probably going to have to lose a Dreadnought. And just losing a Dreadnought might actually not be the worst thing here, because if you lose a Dreadnought, you'd be able to maybe losing a Dreadnought, lose a squad of Servitors, and then maybe take like 3 squads of Incursors. That's probably where I would go with this list with the new rules. The list is like March of the Ancients. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's very true. I'm a bit. It's 10 o'clock here, so maybe not firing on all cylinders tonight, Julian. So yeah. I mean, I guess in the new, I'd probably drop the Servitors. I'd probably drop 1 of the Dreadnoughts, and try and take 3 squads of Incursors. I do prefer the idea of the captain with a heavy bolt rifle. Just because he could actually be used in combat, and if for any reason your captain in Phobos armor ever ends up in combat, he's just terrible. You got more range on the heavy bolt. It's strange it's a heavy bolt rifle, but it's rapid fire 1. Okay, go figure. Games Workshop and their confusing names. I'd probably take the captain and the heavy bolt rifle actually here, because one of the advantages that I found when I was playing the Relic Contemptors is that the range, the 45-inch range on them, and I guess even the 36-inch range of the Redemptors can be used against enemies that don't have as much range. You know, like Grey Knights, Nemesis Dread Knights and stuff. So if you can outrange the enemy and you can never be shot back, a lot of the games I played, my Volkites stayed out of range. I actually think the Cyclone Missile Launcher on one of the Volkites is not a bad option either, especially if you have a Chapter Master, but unfortunately we don't have the points for that here. I don't think I like the Reliquary of Gavlith more in this list. I think if you're going to try and do anti-psychic, the Clixus Assassin on his own is fine. I'll prefer the idea of having the Rites of War Tetmarine. So I mean, what you probably have to consider is one of these Dreadnoughts is like 180 points. You drop 1 of the Redemptors, pick up 2 squads of Incursors, and maybe drop like maybe the Company Veterans. I guess that would be 200 and maybe 220 points. So yeah, that's what I would do. I'd drop the Company Veterans. I'd drop 1 Redemptor. I'd pick up 2 more squads of Incursors. I'd make yourself a battalion, which is going to save you some CP as well. Yeah, I think that's potentially going to save you. Might just be 1 CP. Because you'd still need a patrol. And you wouldn't have the troop squad for it. The troop slot. Yeah, okay, so a battalion's only going to save you 1 CP, but it is 1 CP, right? Vox would be better. I mean, I guess, yeah, maybe Vox would be better to give the captain the bigger aura of rerolls, but the problem is, I guess, the Leviathans aren't core, so you're relying on the Tetmarine to buff the Leviathans and put them on 2s. Good evening from Vegas. So yeah, I think it's quite a strong Dreadnought list. I mean, those Dreadnoughts all perform well. Relic Contemptors, we said, were the best Dreadnoughts at the moment. Redemptors are very good Dreadnoughts. Leviathans are also arguably some of the strongest units. They're all -1 damage, they're all toughness 7. You get 2 Tetmarines in there to repair them. One's repairing flat 3, one can repair D3. And you also have a shrug against all mortals as well, and all your Dreadnoughts can shoot on improved profile because of your successor chapter. I mean, I like this a lot, Dex. I think we've put in a few Dreadnought lists before, but this is a cool one. So OBSEC holding, I mean, with just one troop choice, but we do have some OBSEC from a Warlord trait, so it's about 7. Anti-infantry, you have plenty of anti-infantry firepower here. I mean, you got like 3 onslaught cannons, you got like I think that would be 16 Volkite shots there, plus another 32 Volkite shots here. Anti-infantry horde, it's maybe even a 9, right? Just gonna you got enough firepower to chew through horde-based lists. I guess clever positioning of all your characters to keep your guys buffed. Yeah, I just don't like the Phobos captain either. I agree with you, Sanguinius. I think I would take the captain with the Mastercrafted bolt rifle. I would love it if he had the points for Chapter Master, but I don't think he does. Anti-vehicle monster effectiveness. I mean, how many 3 damage weapons have we got on the list? We've got... I count Twin Volkites as 3 damage weapons, because they pretty much always do 3 mortal wounds or more, so that would be 2. 2 more plasmas here and then 2 more fists, that would be 6. 2 more grav fluxes and a meltagun, and it's like 12. Both Tech Marines have one, so that's like 14. This other Dreadnought's got 2 more. This Dreadnought's got another one, so that's like 15. Captain and Phobos Armor has 1. Potentially, the Colexus has 1. You've got Infernal Pistols here. So yeah, I mean, the Servitors have 3 damage weapons as well. They only get to make 1 attack with them. Would a Gravis Captain be better? I mean, that's what you asked. The Captain with Mastercrafted bolt rifle, I think, synergizes more than the actual, like, just Captain and Gravis armor. But I think a Captain with a Mastercrafted bolt rifle is essentially a Captain in Gravis armor. I mean, he's just got different weapons, right? But I mean, he is essentially a Captain. Toughness 5, 7 wounds, yeah. And I mean, the Toughness 5 makes a big difference in terms of your captain surviving if he ever gets wrapped up in combat, or even if he's getting shot. So anti-vehicle monster is very good. We'll go for a 9.5. Mobility, I guess, if we talk about the strength of Blood Angels being their mobility, Dreadnoughts, they aren't slow, but they aren't mobile either, so maybe like a 7. And then specialization, right? So we got no fight last, we get no denies, but we do have some psychic denial from the Colexus. We have 4 units for actions, but I mean, that's going to change. We have a good number of 3 damage weapons. We have protection against mortal wounds to a certain extent, and we also have 4 CP, which is a little low, so maybe like an 8. So, Dreadnought lists, or when you're trying to make these all Dreadnought lists, I think you're never going to score that highly in my criteria, because my criteria is looking for like a rounded, solid list, which all Dreadnought lists are not going to do. But I think you could do a lot worse than this in terms of doing a Dreadnought list. I think right now this is probably pretty strong. If the enemy doesn't have a ton of anti-armor, a ton of punch through toughness 7 armor, they're going to have a bad day because the Tech Marines are going to repair constantly, and anything that the Dreadnoughts can see, they can shoot pretty effectively. 2 Tech Marines giving 2 pluses, a Captain to give rerolls on 1s, and I guess you could easily pay 1 CP for Wisdom of the Ancients here to make some of these Dreadnoughts better as well. I much prefer this with a battalion, and I think in the new rules a battalion is going to be better, but it does mean sacrificing a Dreadnought. Would I give you a higher score if you had a battalion here? Yeah, possibly. I mean, you might get another point or something just because I feel like you've got probably more chance of objective holding, and you've probably got a bit more mobility with the 3 Phobos units, and yeah, with the changes to actions coming up, you probably have a little bit more strength against actions as well. Cool. Okay. Thoughts on scout bikes, both the models and the units. I cannot remember where we put scout bikes in the tier list, but we did a tier list on every scout bikes would be in what? Fast attack? We put them as crap. Scout bikes are crap. if you didn't see the tier list video, you could go watch it. Just search Blood Angels Fast Attack tier list on YouTube, and my video, I imagine my video comes up first. If it doesn't, I'd be surprised. Blood Angels Fast Attack tier list. Yeah, my video comes up first. Cool. So that's the one you want to watch. And in that video, we'll talk about scout bikes. And I guess we did not think that they were worth playing or including your list. Chris says, just wanted to drop in and say I'm getting my 20-week scan, John, for my wife. Hope your boy's doing well. My friend, take care and have a good Christmas. Yeah, I mean, things are going really well at the hospital, Chris. Thanks for asking. I just spoke to my wife before I started the stream, and she was saying, the hospital was saying there's a chance she can get home this week. They want to get her discharged. Well, they want to get her son. My wife's fine. She's fully recovered, but they want to get her boy home for Christmas, so that's what they're aiming to do. And yeah, the surgery, everything has gone really well, so he's just recovering. So we're hoping it might be home for Christmas. One thing to just say finally, Dex, on this list, and this, I'll say this comments and Steel Rain isn't here. This list needs more Sanguinary Guard. There's nothing else to say, but Steel Rain actually changed his name, so his name is Steel Rain SG, I believe now, and he would 100% say. But good luck with your scan. I think the 20-week scan is when you find out the gender, Chris. I hope it all goes well for you. We're so lucky that we live in an age where medical technology, or medicine, or whatever you want to call it, medicine is so advanced now. I think if my boy had been born like 10, 15 years ago, I don't know if he'd lived. So we're so lucky where we are with modern medicine. So, okay. Oh, so Sam Milber next. I ran this list at the US Open Austin and did okay. Had my first 100-point game. I played against a Grey Knight and a Sister and struggled. Custodes also squashed me. I did beat a tough Thousand Sun player by 3 points, but I could have done much better overall. I feel the Ancient would do this well as a whirlwind for Fight Last and Overwatch. I really miss having a third troop choice for OBSEC General Board presence. Okay, so let's have a look at Sam's list, who he ran to the US Open, which was a giant tournament. I think it was a super major. I think there's 300 players there. So, okay. He started with the Primarch Chaplain on the bike, who had the Artisan of War, Mantra of Strength, Gift of Foresight, Canticle of Hate, Adamantium Mantle, and also Armor Indominus. So this is a great character. If you don't have a Chaplain on a bike and you haven't tried him like this, you probably should. He's very survivable, very mobile, very good at buffing, just a very good character overall, the Primarch Chaplain on a bike. I'm excited for when they release a Primarch Captain on a bike. I already got one made. I converted an Outrider, so I'm waiting to do that. We then have Assault Intercessors and Regular Intercessors. Both are okay troop choices. I do think Phobos units are better in general. I have both Assault Intercessors and Intercessors. I will run them only if I don't have the points for the Phobos units, because I don't prioritize troops super high. But I do think if you can include the Phobos units, you're in much better shape. 5 Blade Guard Veterans, 5 Death Company with 3 Thunderhammers. We're going to come back to these. Okay, and then the second detachment is a Vanguard detachment. He has 1 extra relic. He's got Commander Dante. Notably, Dante is not the Warlord. The Warlord is the Primarch Chaplain in the previous detachment. We also have the Chief Apothecary, Icon of the Angel, Selfless Healer. 2 Redemptors, Rocket Pods, Onslaughts, Macroplasmas, and then 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard, 2 swords, 3 axes in each, and it's 3 5-man squads. Vanguard Veteran Squad, all with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields, and this comes in as 2,000 points exactly. Okay, I mean, overall, this is a pretty good list. I like the 2 Dreadnoughts as fire support. I always think that like having 2 Dreadnoughts helps a lot. The Sanguinary Priest with like the 20 jump pack units is pretty useful. Dante is a weird one. Like his auras and stuff his auras and stuff are good. His survivability and damage output, in my opinion, is not. So I don't like Dante myself, but some people do run him. I want to know, where did we end up? As much as I say that I don't like Dante, where did we end up putting him in the tier list? Blood Angels HQ. We put Dante way up there in A, above the Bike Captain. I mean, obviously some of this is influenced by Mark and Tony, but I mean, if this was me, my Bike Captain goes there. If this was solely me, I think the Bike Captain is the best character you can run in 9th edition. Absolutely love him. He's like the absolute core in my list. But yeah, I mean, Dante is good in terms of he can fight if he can fight on death for free. He can angel sacrifice and fight on death for free. I mean, that's why you run Dante. So, you know, he talked about not having a fight last. I mean, using Dante like that essentially is a fight last, right? You jump in, you sacrifice Dante, you fight anyway, and then you fight with other unit was there. Good evening, Dracula. How you doing? Good evening, Kieran Commissar. Thanks for being here. So yeah, I mean, it's a nice list in that you have the 20 jump pack units, the 2 Redemptors, I guess Dante, the Sanguinary Priest, and the Chaplain to go with all those jump units. The Blade Guard Veterans to me are a toughie because I like Blade Guard Veterans. I think they're a good unit for like soaking up fire and causing general carnage if they get into the enemy. The problem is they're slow. So it's a tough one. Like Blade Guard Veterans flooding the center of the board for Oath of Moment with a couple of Redemptors backing up behind them can sometimes be very effective, right? Like sometimes I've played games where people would focus down the Blade Guard Veterans, leaving my Redemptors pretty survivable, or pretty okay, and I've played other games where people would focus down Redemptors, leave the Blade Guard Veterans, so it can be a pretty good tactic. The Death Company to jump in with a Forlorn Fury, and in this case it would just cost you 1 CP, with those Thunder Hammers is pretty decent. You can also, with this list, I guess, have Dante give them Chapter Master rerolls and have the Sanguinary Priest put them Assault Doctrine in turn 1. So you can make a turn 1 charge with rerolls to hit and in the Assault Doctrine, so you could do a lot of damage with that Death Company in turn 1 potentially. I just wonder if there's something that you could change here. I'd probably drop the rocket pods on the Redemptors here, or at least one of the rocket pods to get a squad of Incursors. And I understand what you're saying now about only having 2 troop units. So I ran a lot of lists where I just had 2 troop units, but I think the reason that my lists with 2 troop units did so well was the fact that I also had a Whirlwind. So I could park the Whirlwind on the backfield objective. I could feel pretty safe, because a Whirlwind can usually be obscured. It's T7, it's got 11 wounds, so it's not going to get chewed through like super quickly, and then use my true troop units to push out. If your only 2 troop units are these 2, I find Assault Intercessors very difficult to play as well, because Assault Intercessors, you need to be moving them up through the middle of the board, or, you know, they're not fast, they end up out of cover, they end up getting shot and killed and not doing much. So I think Assault Intercessors are possibly best placed in reserve to come in and charge an enemy objective and try and obsec it away from them, just because they're an obsec unit and they do have like 20 some chainsword attacks, right? But I think, like in this list, I definitely would drop a squad. I would drop one of the rocket pods to get a squad of Incursors here, and the advantage of having Incursors is they can now sit in the backfield objective, they can be safe, and if you need them somewhere else on the board later in the game, you can guerrilla tactics them forward. I like 15 Sanguinary Guard, I like 5 Vanguard Veterans. I think these are all good units that can perform well. I like running that many of them with a Sanguinary Priest. I just think the Priest is overcosted. That's why I moved away from him. 155 points is a lot. I felt like he was a lot at 135. 155 is a lot. You know, like 155 is literally 5 more Sanguinary Guard at that point. If you 155 points. The Selfless Healer is expensive. There's no two ways to say about it. But I mean, I think that the list we looked at just this week that won a GT ran Selfless Healer, so it's still a strong thing. You can still use it effectively. Yeah, thank you, Dracula. The family is recovering. If I was going to take Blade Guard Veterans, I'd have to take a transport, but then that's points and all, and paired combat blades. Yeah, I mean, the combat blades and the Incursors are nice. I have recently I've been running Blade Guard Veterans for 3 months, 5-man squad. And before that, I was running them for like 9 months with a 4-man squad. That was before Chapter Approved came out. Maybe it's longer that I've been running the 5-man squad. I've been running the 5-man squad Maybe it's closer to 6 months now. But the one thing that I wanted to say about the 5-man squad of Bladeguard veterans is I do see mixed results. I see games where I lose them in turn 1 or 2 in no man's land and they've done nothing, and then I see other games where they end up in the employment zone killing everything. So Bladeguard veterans they feel to me like a mixed bag. I have tried them a couple of times now in a transport, and I did actually really like it. But if you think about it, 175 points, they're already more expensive than a squad of Sanguinary Guard, and then you have to pay like 125 odd points for the transport. I think an Impulsor is about 125. It's been an Impulsor dedicated transport. Where are we? Yeah, it's like 125 by the time you put the shield dome on it. At that point, you're paying like 290 points. That's 10 Sanguinary Guard. You could almost take all 3 of these Sanguinary Guard units plus 3 models. So you have 3 8-man units. It's 3 8 Sanguinary Guard. Is 3 8 Sanguinary Guard better than 3 5 Sanguinary Guard and 5 Bladeguard veterans in an Impulsor? It's such a tough call. The Impulsor is ablative wounds. If the enemy cannot open up that Impulsor early... The other thing that I thought was quite nice about having the Impulsor is you can just advance the Impulsor right into the centre of the board. If you're going to take Oath of Moment, you need models in the centre of the board. So if you advance your Impulsor right into the centre of the board, that's going to score you Oath points in turn 1. And if they blow it up, that is fine. Just unload the Bladeguard veterans within 6 of the middle and you're still going to score your Oath points. To play Assault Intercessors, would you say it's best having them reserved for the first couple of turns, saving them for a BA to charge later? Yeah, I mean, when I played Assault Intercessors at the recent tournament, I did both. I either brought them in on like turn 2 or 3 to do Retrieve Octarius data, or I brought them in turn 2 or 3 to do a charge try to charge onto an enemy's objective, right? To obsec it away from them. Just because it doesn't matter if the 5 Assault Intercessors die, right? The whole idea is if they're holding an objective with non-obset units, if you charge in and fight, and as long as one guy's living, then that's your objective, and you potentially swing victory points. And that can sometimes be a big swing. You know, it can go from the enemy controlling more than you to them controlling less, or it can be a 5 or even a 10-point swing. So Assault Intercessors, I think in my list I was running 2 squads of Incursors and 1 squad of Assault Intercessors. I started the Incursors on the board, usually holding like backfield objectives or positioned maybe slightly forward to hold midfield objectives. Sometimes I'm using my Whirlwind to hold the backfield. And then the Assault Intercessors, every game I started them in reserve with a view to Retrieve Octarius data, or, worst case, they can come in, like, say the enemy's going to deep strike in your deployment zone, then bring them in to sort of clean up your own deployment zone. So I don't mind this list at all. He said he struggled against Grey Knights and Sisters. I mean, Sisters are a tough list to play against anyway. And he did beat a tough Thousand Sun player. Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I'll score it. I'm not sure. Like, I don't want to beat a dead horse, I guess, but like, Phobos troop units, question mark around these Bladeguard because they're slow. If you have a definite plan for them, like you're just going middle of the board and you're fine with that, then that's possibly okay, but like, I find Bladeguard with no support, they just get chewed up. They're Storm Shields, but they're not super survivable. And then having a Whirlwind, a Whirlwind would be nice in this list, but you'd have to give up a lot, it feels like. You're right, 165 points plus 155 points, that's 300 and... So you're like 450 points on characters here. And that is a lot, 450 points on characters. I talk about in my list trying to have like 500 points of heavy support and maybe like 400 points of characters. I know it's only 50 over, but Yeah, it's tough. If this was just a regular captain on a bike, for example, or a regular captain with a jump pack, you could save 50 points here. Is Dante good enough? I was thinking about this just yesterday or something, right? Because I was thinking about, like, so my list, I was talking a little bit about how I wanted to put an impulsor, because I felt like the Blade Guard veterans are a mixed bag. When you start them on the board, they either do amazing or they just get shot and killed, or in the case of like a psychic army, just get mortal wounded death. So I was thinking to myself, like, what if I had one more, like a Primaris character to go in the impulsor with the Blade Guard? And the one that sprung to mind for me was like Mephiston for 155 points. But then I was like, do you know what? Mephiston is so expensive. 155 points, again, seems like a lot for a character that can just be killed in a single turn and isn't that survivable. And I mean, that's kind of how I feel about Dante. Like, Dante can be killed with a single melt-a-gun shot. And I mean, like, in tournament play, I just played in a game, Tempest Scions or whatnot, where like the guy basically deep strike 2 squads of melt-a-gun Scions. And that was after he deep striked about 5 squads of plasma gun Scions. So he deep strike 5 squads of plasma gun Scions. I lost all my Sanguinary Guard to that, like all 8 of them. And then he deep struck the 2 melt-a-gun squads. So then like he hit my character with 8 melt-a-guns. Like if Dante gets hit with 8 melt-a-guns, he's 100% dead. Whereas you can build a character like your bike captain can probably tank through 8 melt-a-guns. Potentially a chapter master or a captain on a bike can also tank through 8 melt-a-guns, but like I feel like Dante's got no chance. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't run Astaroth as well. You know, like Astaroth's 150 points, and like his chance of tanking through that is like 0. He'll just die every single turn. Hey Sam, thanks for actually being here. Blade Guard were mostly for Oath in the middle. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you have a distinct purpose for Blade Guard, that can be okay. I don't own a jump pack captain nor a bike captain, unfortunately. Well, maybe that's where you need to consider going next. I don't know if you've watched any of my live games, Sam, but like my bike captain is MVP, and I don't know how many games he's been MVP, but a lot, right? Like, he's basically Dante, but with a more accurate infernal pistol and with a 3 damage weapon and more toughness and more wounds. You know, like he's just better in so many ways. Yeah, you have to throw a CP onto him, but I really think now is a time to start thinking about the future and with the changes that are coming. And I think you're gonna need, like, I think that they've basically nerfed patrol and vanguard detachments in terms of like running 2 together. I think like we're going to see a resurgence of battalions, because basically being able to use those small units to do retrieve Octarius data is going to be finished. It's not going to happen much anymore. Which I guess is going to make scoring your points for retrieve Octarius data much more random, or much more it's going to be much more random, I guess. I just got an Incursion Squad. Well, you're golden. Incursion Squads is what you're going to need. You're going to need I mean, like, I literally have 3 Incursion Squads on, well, 2 on my desk because I got 1 finished. What were the changes? Have they been announced? Not exactly. We're going to cover it on the 3 Rots podcast pretty soon, because there was some changes, but one of the changes to retrieve Octarius data, and this was just from the US tournament. It was from a tournament, an official GW tournament, and they made a change to retrieve Octarius data so that, and like I said, we'll cover it on another podcast, but like, if you try and do it with any unit that's not troops, and it's not 5-man, so like a 5-man troop unit will still do Octarius data 100% of the time, but like if you want to do it on like a servitor squad of 4 guys, you have to roll a d6, and you have to roll less than the number of models in the squad for retrieve Octarius data to successfully work. So like where you bring in your 4 servitors and you try and do data, it's only gonna work if you roll less than 4. If you brought in 2 company veterans to do data, it's only gonna work if you do less than 2. So I guess it's a change to stop people bringing like lots of really cheap units, like a 30-point servitor squad to do data. But we will cover it and we'll discuss. But I think it's going to shift back to battalions are going to be much more important. And I guess as it stands, I've said many times that I think Incursors and Infiltrators are our best choice for troops. I think it's probably Incursors because I just think they're the most versatile. They're good in close combat. They're mobile because of guerrilla tactics, and also concealed positions. So I think I've been saying for a while, if you don't own Incursors, you should get some. I literally have the box here. This is what you need to buy. Primaris Infiltrators. I kept the box just so I could up here and be like, buy these. Yeah. So it's a decent list, Sam. I can see why you would have done well at the tournament. You know, you've got a good jump threat, you've got good backup, you've got reasonably decent characters. It feels pretty varied. I can't undersell guerrilla tactics as well, in terms of guerrilla tactics helps you retrieve Octavius data so easily in some games. And that's going to be even more common, or it's going to happen even more so now. So going forward, that's the first thing I would do. Get Incursors. You're running a battalion with Infiltrators and Incursors. Cool. I jumped back on the battalion for CP saving. They might be slightly pushing to Hero Hammer. No, I don't think they're pushing to Hero Hammer. I think it's probably good because some factions like Sisters of Battle can have like a 22-point unit, like a crusade. It's Crusaders, isn't it? Like 2 Crusaders, 22 points, and you could just have 3 sets of those because there's only 2 models. Maybe it's this one. Oh, sugar. I said my 2-year-old might wake up. She is awake. I will be back. Alright, if you are still here, thank you for hanging out. Appreciate it. She's back asleep. For how long, nobody knows. Yeah, what was it? Are these no, these aren't Crusaders either. Where are the Sisters of Battle Crusaders? Here, is it? Yeah, so they could take 2 Crusaders for 22 points. And they could do that 3 times and just score 3 victorious data super easily. It was kind of broken how easy it was for them to score those points. So we'll be discussing some of the new secondaries and stuff as soon as possible. Let me think about Sam's list then. OBSEC, we've got like 2 OBSEC units, so about 7.5. Anti-Horde. So shooting, we have the... Did I close your list down? My bad. Okay, so shooting, we have the 2 Redemptors mainly. I guess we've got 30 shots coming out from the Sanguinary Guard. We've got a little bit of firepower from the Assault Bolters and like the Primaris Chaplain and stuff. Nothing to get overly excited about. Let's say like an 8 for Anti-Horde Infantry. Anti-Monster, what we got 3 damage weapon-wise? We got this Chaplain here, he's got 1. 4 Thunderhammers. Or 4 once we include the 3 Thunderhammers. Dante's got 1, so that gives us 5. Both Redemptors have a couple, so it gives us like 9. So 9 3 damage weapons, so just slightly less than what I tend to like. I like to say 10. I already said drop 1 rocket pod for an Incursion Squad. I'd drop the other rocket pod for an Infernal Pistol somewhere just to give you another 3 damage or more weapon. I think it's important when you come up against armies that have got a lot of -1 damage. I think 10 is the bare minimum I like to see. More is obviously better. So, I mean, you do have 15 Sanguinary Guard with swords, that will do a lot of damage. You do have 2 Redemptors, that will do a lot of damage. You've got Death Company. We've got Chapter Master rerolls, you've got Blade Guard Veterans, Vanguard Veterans, so I think it's still solid, but I would like to see maybe a few more 3 damage weapons on the list to give it sort of like more rounded feel to it, would be the way that I would yeah, more rounded would be a way that I would categorize it. I think it's a very mobile list though. I mean, 25 jump man units, couple of dreadnoughts. I think it's more mobile than the last list, so like probably like an 8. And then we don't have fight last, we don't have denies. Units for actions, I guess, is fine. Potentially, I mean, you've got 6 units that could do actions, the 2 troop ones, but they aren't the most mobile troops. 3 damage weapons is fine. Protection against mortal wounds is kind of okay, I suppose, with the Sanguinary Priest, and starting with 6 CP. So I think your specialization is like an 8 there. I mean, it's missing a couple of key tools that I like to use. I mean, maybe the fight last with the right Angel Sacrifice is okay. Good evening, Scott. How you doing? But yeah, I prefer probably to have an actual dedicated fight last. I think it's not needed every game, but then again, like Null Zone isn't needed every game, and I run Null Zone, but I am thinking of changing that. I do think the Whirlwind provides good value overall, because it holds an objective and it gives you a fight last anywhere on the board. And if you ever have to use an interrupt on a battle, like a 2 CP interrupt, then you could have done that for 1 CP with the Whirlwind, right? And you would have also got to fight first as opposed to it being interrupting. Yeah, I think it's an okay list. I think in terms of like raw damage and simplicity, it's a good list. But I think maybe like these categories of things that I have here, like protection against mortal wounds, starting with good CP, 3 damage weapons, how many units are doing actions, are you doing any denies, are you fighting last? These are sort of like the next level tools, I would say. Whereas if you start including some of these tools to a better extent, you probably see that list push on But I mean, in terms of like just a solid Blood Angels list that can do a lot of damage, then I think this is absolutely fine. And I wouldn't say try and include all these, because I think if you try and include all of them, you probably end up having to sacrifice quite a lot. So I guess the balance is like, what are you trying to include? And I think in my list, maybe at the moment where I am, is I have tried to include all of them. Obviously, I didn't win a GT, so and the list that did just win a GT that we looked at this week didn't have a Fight Last or didn't have Denies. So I guess like picking 4 or 5 out of this list of 6 would help push your list up to the next level, Sam. And yeah, push on from there, I guess. Hope that helps. But yeah, I think if you... I ran Patrol and Vanguard now for like... Or I ran Patrol and Vanguard for like 6 months. And I think now... I think battalions are going to be the way forward. Good evening, Steel Rain. I already told Dex with his last list that it needed more Sanguinary Guard. Sam's got 15 Sanguinary Guard in his list, so Sam's doing pretty well. But I mean, does it need more than 15? I mean, I think he's fine. I am running 15 in mine either, so I think just pick a couple of these tools that you think you can fit in without sacrificing too much of what you're doing, and I think you can probably push on and do better. But it sounded like you did pretty well anyway at your event, right? So, I mean, you mentioned the Sanguinary Ancient. I didn't talk about that. The problem I have with the Sanguinary Ancient is he's like 3 more Sanguinary Guard, right? He's like 115 points. So just less than 3 Sanguinary Guard for 2 inches of movement. I tend to always deploy my Sanguinary Guard into a concealed position, and I tend to usually advance them in turn 1 into another concealed position. I wonder if I have a picture of a battle that I played recently that I just did that in. I probably have, I think I have YouTube screenshots on my desktop. 1 second, yeah, I've got one. Yeah, perfect. Like, so I just show you one. This is why I'm not sure the Sanguinary Ancient is always needed, right? So, like, use this battle where I played the Tau player, right? So this was... I went first in turn 1, and I think this was... I don't think I've moved all my units yet in turn 1. I think this picture was taken midway through turn 1. I deployed my Sanguinary Guard here in this game, right? And the reason being that if you look at here, there's no firing arc he can get to the Sanguinary Guard, right? Because like, if you think about the firing arc through this building, it would be like, yeah, you could shoot one of my Contemptors or my Contemptors down here. But I think I actually deployed them over here and moved them over to the left. So this building has completely obscured the Sanguinary Guard. There's no way for him to shoot them. He can shoot them with like indirect fire, but if he does choose to shoot them with indirect fire, I have them touching this forest. So the ones that are touching the forest, I think it would be 1, 2, 3 models maybe. We could probably zoom in here, couldn't we? Actually, 4, 5. So I've got 5 models touching this forest. Bear in mind, there's no minus to movement through a forest if you have a jump pack. So by touching 5 of them in the forest means that even if he did decide to shoot at them, some places play when you're in a forest, it's +1 to your cover save. In this tournament, it was going to be -1 to hit if you're in the forest. So by placing him in the forest, he's going to be more than half the squad are in the forest, so he's going to be -1 to hit if he shoots the Sanguinary Guard here. So, the Sanguinary Guard were deployed where he couldn't see them, and if he does shoot them in indirect fire, they're not going to do much. We're still on our 2-up save or whatever. And in turn 1, I'm just going to advance them into this building, and I'm just going to chill in this building. And I think that's exactly what I did in this game. Yeah, I think in the next screenshot, I chilled in that building, and then made a charge out and like killed, like, there was a giant suit of crisis suits there a minute ago, right? So I just killed like 9 crisis suits. There's like 2 left, right? So this is why I'm not sure you always need the Sanguinary Ancient, because like I jumped there and I was happy to just chill in there in a defensible position. And if you think about 12 inches from here, bear in mind these markers are like 6 inches across, so double the length of these markers would be like 12 inches. So if I was in here, I could almost jump out to this model right here. I probably could actually reach that model. Could just jump out to there, and I could have made a charge on just about anything. So it's like the 2 inches of additional movement you get from the Sanguinary Ancient. I mean, some maps, sure, it'll be useful. But I think if you play Sanguinary Guard enough, and we know Sanguinary Guard don't survive when they're targeted and they're shot, so they have to be obscured. So turn 1, or deployment, you need to be deploying them in an obscuring position. Turn 1, essentially, you need to be jumping to an obscuring position further up the battlefield. They should never be in the open. So, and if there isn't a good position further up the battlefield that they can get to in turn 1, then I guess they're just chilling turn 1 in a less advanced position and jumping to that obscuring position in turn 2. I don't mind in my battles if my Sanguinary Guard don't make charges till turn 3. Like, Sanguinary Guard do a ton of damage in turn 3, so if the whole squad's alive in turn 3, that's probably actually going to be better than if you make like a turn 2 charge anyway. So, that's my opinion on it. That's why I don't know if I rate the Sanguinary Ancient. I have 2 Sanguinary Ancients. I think I got one with an Infernal Pistol and one with an Angelus Bolt Gun, and I got them all painted, and I just don't run either of them. Okay, I'm going to move on to list number 3. Yeah, and the show was late tonight because basically I guess I can only do stuff now when my 2-year-old is sleeping, but they have said to my wife that there's a good chance that we're going to get the baby home before Christmas. So hopefully that's happening sooner rather than later. Alright, let's move on to list 3, and this is by AJ Nichols. Submitting a list for review, planning to bring it to a local tournament just to see how it plays. I know there's some questionable choices, Scouts and Inquisitors first and foremost, but I think this is a fairly solid showing of what Blood Angels can bring without relying too heavily on the best units in the Space Marine Codex. Okay, I mean, I have no shame in running on the best units in the Space Marine Codex, period. I think this is a great, why would you not run the best units? But, I mean, if you want to run something different, that's totally fine as well. Alright, so this is a battalion, 5 CP, 2,000 points, and we get 2 extra relics. We start with a company veteran squad. I didn't even know company veterans could take a missile launcher and a storm shield, but apparently that's a thing. Does someone want to tell me? Have they ever seen that before? A company veteran with a missile launcher and a storm shield? I mean, it's possible. Company veterans, any number can have their bolt pistol replaced with a pistol or a melee weapon. Any number can have their bolt gun replaced with a combi weapon or a storm shield. Any company veteran can have their bolt gun replaced with a special weapon, and one company can be replaced with a heavy weapon. So you can replace his bolt gun with his heavy weapon and his pistol with a storm shield. Okay, cool. I've been doing list reviews now for damn near 2 years, and I've never seen a missile launcher and a storm shield. So hats off to you for AJ for coming up with something that we've not seen before. Okay, this is the strangest squad I've ever seen. And then we got the Sergeant with the Storm Shield Thunderhammer. Cool. We also have an Inquisitor, who is Dominate, Mental Interrogation, the Black Shroud, a Force Sword, the Malice, Psychic Mastery, and Warding. I'm going to need to look this guy up because this is a lot of shit. I have done videos in Inquisition. This is a lot of shit that I haven't seen for a while. Right, so Dominate. I think Dominate is the one where you can make an enemy make a single ranged attack. Or a melee attack, I think. Dominate, yeah, warp charge of 12. They can make, so you can make an enemy make a shooting or a melee attack. So I guess you can like shoot their pistol once or attack a nearby unit. Mental Interrogation is the one where you roll over their leadership, and you can gain a command point, and you can also make the enemy -1 to hit, so that's pretty cool. These are all Inquisitor thing. The Black Shroud is some sort of cloak, is it not? No, it's not. When resolving attacks with this model with this relic, subtract 1 to wound roll. Oh, right, so it's kind of a cloak. He's got the Force Sword. He also has Psychic Mastery, I think, is just giving him an additional psychic power. Warding Cantation gives infantry unit a 5-up invulnerable save, I think. Infantry or biker 5-up invuln save, and then Ordo Malice. God, I don't remember this either. Ordo Malice is... maybe I have to click over here and go Inquisitor. I think you'd have to click here. No. Where would Ordo Malice come up? Someone remind me what Ordo Malice does. I could always just click. Yeah, Ordo Malice. Here we go. Ordo Malice is when resolving attacks made in this unit against chaos or demons, reroll a hit and reroll a wound. Okay. So it's an interesting... I don't think Inquisitors are bad models. I like the one where you can actually steal people, or you can gain command points here. I've never seen that much effectiveness from Dominate. It's just a single attack you can make with an enemy. I mean, I guess sometimes you could smack something around with like Mortarion or something like that, but... And then I guess Warding Incantation, giving an invulnerable save to an infantry is useful, I guess. I do not remember either what Arbiter of the Emperor's Will does. Let me see what this one does. Use a stratagem, select one Inquisition. Oh, and you've given him a Warlord trait. Okay, and the Warlord trait would be Psychic Mastery, which gives him the extra power. Okay, so he's a 3 power Inquisitor for 70 points. You've had to spend quite a lot to get that, right? We then have a Captain on a Bike, Artisan of War, Gifted Foresight, Adamantial Mantle, Angel's Artifice, Infernal Pistol, Power Fist. Strange choice on the Power Fist. I think the Thunder Hammer is much better. But, I mean, Power Fist is okay. It just gets up -1 damage weapons. It loses a lot of its potency. Angel's Artifice over Adamantium Mantle, I also think is the wrong call. Adamantium Mantle probably gives you more survivability in most cases. They both have the 2-up save. They both have 1 additional wound. Angel's Artifice gives you 1 additional toughness. You're already toughness 5. I'm not sure toughness 6 makes a whole difference unless you're maybe playing against Death Guard, whereas Armor Indomitus gives you that the ability to get that 3-up invulnerable save whenever you may need it. We have a Death Company Captain who has the Teeth of Terra, an Infernal Pistol and Jump Pack, and also Rites of War, which is pretty good. And then we have a Sanguinary Priest who's wearing Artificer Armor, Chief Apothecary, Selfless Healer, etc., etc. I don't like Artificer Armor as a relic. I would, in this case, because you've given your captain Angel's Artifice, I would give the Sanguinary Priest Armor Indomitus. I think the Sanguinary Priest should never be in a situation where you can be targeted or killed. He needs to be hanging back. He's mobile enough with his jump pack. I think Teeth of Terror is actually the best you could give the Sanguinary Priest or Icon of Angel. I think are the 2 best picks, but if you're feeling like you need him to survive, Armor Indomitus is the right pick. Had to watch your football and we laid an egg. Okay, what football were we watching, Mark? Good evening, by the way. And the missile launcher is probably a little bit overcosted. How much points is a missile launcher on a company veteran? 15 points. Yeah, okay, that's terrible overcosted, I guess. If a cyclone missile launcher is only 25, a missile launcher should not be 15. Probably 10 on the missile launcher would be better. Okay, the one thing I'm going to say here is you've got 4 characters, so that kind of straight away opens you up against an Assassinate pick. And I prefer to just not give my opponents easy secondaries to pick against me. And this is also a hell of a lot of points on characters, is it? This is like 500 points. I think you should be aiming to have no more than like 400 points. Oh, you're talking about American football. Oh, no one cares about that, Mark. Come on. I thought you were talking about soccer. 500 points on characters feels like a lot. It must be actually... I was going to say, it must be near the end of the season now in American football, right? I was a sort of Giants fan for a little while, but they've been trash for about 10 years now, it feels like, the Giants, so I kind of fell off following it as much. Yeah, it feels like a lot of points to spend on characters. That's like, yeah, that's over 500. I would try and cut one of these characters because I don't like giving my opponents 13. I don't like giving my opponents an easy second read to pick, and I also think 500 points on characters is too much. Yeah, we then have Incursors, Infiltrators, and a Tactical Squad, and the Tactical Squad have a Heavy Bolter and a Storm Bolter, and they're 105 points. I mean, I think Tactical Squads, I was going to say, are the weakest troop choice in 9th. If you had like a Rhino or something, I could maybe understand it, but you don't, so I reckon for 105 points, I would much rather just have a second Incursor squad. No one in America cares about soccer. Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true. But I mean, I thought that the people, I thought that MLS was getting bigger, or is it still just trash? We then have 2 Death Company squads, all armed with infernal pistols and power swords, which is strange, and feels a little bit strange. I mean, you've got a Death Company captain to back one of the squads up, and I guess you've got your other captain. But infernal pistols and power swords are like 10 points per model. Would you not just be better here having thunder hammers? I mean, I don't hate infernal pistols. I actually think they're pretty decent. But I think that thunder hammers are just because Death Company get a lot of attacks, right? So like, Death Company Marine gets what, 2 attacks, 3 for charging, 4 from the back rage, 5 for Savage Echoes, like 5 Thunder Hammers hitting on 4s versus 1 Infernal Pistol hitting on 3s. I mean, the one so averages tell me that the Thunder Hammers are going to do a lot better. I mean, there's worse ways you could arm the Death Company, I guess. You are going to get 5 Infernal Pistols. The problem is, if you're not within 6 inches, if you're out with 6 inches, you can charge with the Thunder Hammers. If you're not within 6 inches, your Infernal Pistols are completely wasted. I think if I'm running jump pack units, I would like to run a single Infernal Pistol in those units. Because you're only... So I usually run like a single Infernal Pistol, and quite often in the game you're going to get to shoot that pistol like 1 time, because there's 1 time you're going to be in 6-inch range. So you're paying 5 points in that situation for like, you know, you're happy to pay the 5 points for that 1 lucky Infernal Pistol that may or may not do well. But in this case, you're paying 50 points for Infernal Pistols, and like, you could probably play a handful of games and never shoot these pistols once. Whereas if you just had 1 Infernal Pistol and a bunch of Thunder Hammers, I think that would be much better. You have a Redemptor Dreadnought. And I think the Frag Storms are always outdone by the Storm Bolters. I mean, the Frag Storms are fine, but swords are 1 damage. The Chainsword gives you an extra attack, save the points. Yeah, I mean, the Chainswords now are -2, I guess, on turn 3 as well. So quite often the -4 you'll be getting from the Power Sword will be wasted. I think the Death Company loadouts could be improved quite a lot. Combi Meltas work way better. Yeah, I mean, Death Company can't take Combi Meltas, but you're right, Melta Guns would be much better. Scout Squad, we have scouts with the Sergeant with a Sniper Rifle, some other scouts with a Sniper Rifle, and the Heavy Weapon, and 103 points on scouts for 4 Sniper Rifle shots. I honestly don't remember what's like Sniper Rifles for scouts. Heavy 1, Strength 4, -1, 1 damage for 100 points. And what was it, a missile launcher in there as well? I think there's a reason we don't see scouts picked, and this is probably the reason. Like, they are expensive, and they do not do much damage, and they don't survive because they're just not 4-up save, and they only got 1 wound, unlike regular Marines that are 2 now. You know, for 1 wound models, these guys are fucking expensive at 14 points. And that's before you give them a sniper rifle that's 16 points. Yeah, no, scouts to me. I mean, they got camel cloaks, I guess, so they're gonna get like +2 to their save and cover. But even so, with the camel cloaks, they're 18 points per. Yeah, I guess that's why the score is so high. So even in the camel cloaks, I guess they're gonna get 2 up save and cover, but they're only 1 wound. They're only heavy 1, strength 4. I guess you can see why people don't play them. You actually quite like the scouts and Landspeeder Storm, but not snipers. Yeah, I mean, if they had combat knives, I think that's much better. We then have Hellblasters, and I guess the idea is that the Hellblasters go in the Impulsor because they're assault weapons. You can obviously disembark and you can shoot the same turn. And then the Landspeeder Storm. Yeah, it's a bit of a confused list, is what I'd say. You did say you hadn't been picking the best Marines in the Space Marine Codex, or the best units, but there's too many characters. I tend to feel the Death Company loadouts are poor. The Scouts and the Tacticals are also a poor low-tier choice at the moment. And to me, Hellblasters are fucking expensive as well. No problem, Dex. We did your list first. I'm sorry you weren't here for it. So I have Hellblasters. I have 10 of them. They're fully painted. They're ready to go. But when you compare 5 Hellblasters to 5 Sanguinary Guard, and if you put 5 Sanguinary Guard in with 1 Infernal Pistol, like I said earlier, that I think is pretty good. If you have 5 Sanguinary Guard, axes, bolters, 1 Infernal Pistol, that's 165 points. They will do so much more damage in a game than 5 Assault Hellblasters that can potentially kill themselves if you roll 1s. And you have to pay 130 points just to get those Hellblasters somewhere on the table. Whereas the Sanguinary Guard can Deep Strike, or they can redeploy with Wings of Fire. Yeah, I mean, this list actually does need more Sanguinary Guard. Sanguinary Guard are the Blood Angel's best unit. I think it does need some Sanguinary Guard in it. I mean, if this was me, I would lose one of the characters. I would lose the Tacticals. I'd lose the Scouts. Honestly, I think I'd lose the Hellblasters and Impulsors as well. Or, if you can change the Scouts up to combat knives, I'd be okay to keep the Scouts inside the Storm. But Hellblasters in an Impulsor, they're only 2 wound Marines. They're so expensive, like 33 points per model. I think there's other chapters that do this better. If you want to do some sort of like plasma assault like this, would you not just be better doing Inceptors? Would you not be better doing like 3 Inceptors or 180 points? They actually get just as many, if not more, shots than the Hellblasters, right? Because the Assault Hellblasters get 3 shots per model, so it's 15. Whereas the Inceptors, if you shoot a squad that's more than 6, then you get 18 shots because their guns are Assault 3. Hellblasters do more damage to themselves than the targets, potentially, yeah. And the other thing to say about the Inceptors is the Inceptors can arrive from Deep Strike, they're toughness 5. I mean, 3 Inceptors are toughness 5, 9 wounds, whereas Hellblasters are 10 wounds, toughness 4. I think 1 more toughness is much more valuable than 1 more wound, and you've just saved yourself like 130 points because you don't need to take the Impulsor. And I mean, like, you've put an extra stubber on the Impulsor. I mean, I think it's just wasted points as well, because like, what is an Iron Tail heavy stubber like? Strength 4? Maybe it's -1. These dedicated transports are transports. I mean, like, try and keep them as cheap as possible. It's a heavy 4, so you're gonna shoot what weapon ballistic skill 3+, and you're probably only gonna be in ballistic skill 3+ once in the game. So you're gonna get like 3 hits at strength 4, so arguably like a couple of wounds at -1. It's gonna do 1 damage if you're lucky. 5 points for a weapon that's gonna do 1 damage once per game. Yeah. And then you've got the company veterans, which feels to me like a centerboard holding unit, maybe, with all the storm shields. But then just 1 dreadnought, and I think when you just have 1 dreadnought, he becomes sort of a bullet magnet, and he doesn't survive. Hellblasters can't arrive from deep strike or use our shooting specific stratagem. Yeah, that's very true, because the Inceptors can also use Upon Wings of Fire. Good point, Stephen. So Upon Wings of Fire gives those Inceptors the 2+ BS when they land. If you have them near your captain, you reroll your 1s. So yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, I think the list could do okay, but like I don't think it would do very well in a highly competitive situation, and I think quite a few picks are basically suboptimal. So OBSEC, I mean, you do have 3 troop choices, so we'll give you like 4.5, 8.5. 2 of them are infiltrators. 2 of them are Phobos. Anti-Horde firepower, we have very little anti-Horde firepower. I mean, like, we've got a tactical squad, we've got a couple of missile launchers, we've got an onslaught cannon, and a couple of other random stubbers. I mean, I guess you could use your Hellblasters as a bit of anti-Horde, but you don't really want to be using your Hellblasters to shoot away hordes. I do not approve of Lonely Dreadnoughts. Yeah, me neither. Dreadnought on its own isn't that good. Whenever I go second, my Redemptor gets nuked. Yeah, I mean, you have to be really clever with your deployment of Redemptor Dreadnoughts. They need to almost always be fully obscured if you can manage it. 3 damage weapons in this list, then we have a missile launcher, 2 on the Redemptor. I mean, I guess we've got 10 Infernal Pistols here, so we do have a good number of 3 damage weapons. But more Infernal Pistol here. Another missile launcher. We've got a good number of 3 damage weapons. I'm just not convinced that Infernal Pistols on Death Company is the strongest play here. If I just swap these out for like stock Sanguinary Guard, right, you know, like just 5 Sanguinary Guard, bolters and swords, or bolters and axes, over the Death Company with all the Infernal Pistols and Power Swords, I would take the Sanguinary Guard 100% of the time. I don't. So that and that'd be 15 points cheaper, I think. So that proves, or that says how little I rate this squad, right? If I just had to lose the 30 points, you know, and just take 2 5-man Sanguinary Guard, I would take that. So I think anti-monster vehicle effectiveness is kind of like maybe an 8.5. Feels a little bit. Too many Infernal Pistols in one squad, and also, like I said, too many times they're just not going to be in range. They're going to be in range once per game. I think that's the way to look at Infernal Pistols. Imagine yourself that you're going to be in range once per game, and then decide if 50 points for a weapon that's going to be in range once per game is going to be worth it. I'd say it's probably not. Mobility. I mean, you do have 2 dedicated transports there to help with mobility. You do have 2 Phobos units that are pretty mobile. Most of your characters are mobile, so mobility isn't bad, I'd say. But specialization, we don't have a fight last. We do have a deny or 2. We do have units for actions. We do have 3 damage weapons. How many CP we got? 5. I mean, that's not great. But we don't have any protection against mortals. Oh, well, we do have a little bit with our Sanguinary Priest, the North, the Seam. So, yeah, I think like a 7. I just think that the list is a little bit confused. I mean, it scores okay. Like, that's the problem with my scoring system. Like, sometimes you can have a list that scores okay. DTM, you're definitely subscribed from before, but thank you for resubscribing, I guess. Yeah, sometimes my scoring system, you know, I mean, the Infernal Pistols, I guess, skewed some of the stats, but yeah, I think this list needs work. I don't think it's going to be competitive. Yeah. I just don't see enough synergies in the list. And yeah, no Sanguinary Guard, and then Hellblasters and Impulsor. I don't like it. I don't play that sort of list enough to really be super objective on it, but yeah, I mean, nobody's playing that sort of stuff, so I don't think it's that strong. Okay, let's talk about Jonathan Mathis next, and I have a feeling Jonathan posted something. Jonathan just won a tournament, right? Like literally. This doesn't look like his tournament list, but I'm sure he posted like today or yesterday that yeah, like, is this? I think I can bring it up. God, I'm so bad at using Facebook, honestly, guys. I have a mention here on Facebook. Like, I am mentioned here in this thing, and I click it, and like, it just doesn't go to it. Like, what am I doing wrong? Open link in new window. Will that do it? Hey, here we go. That's weird. So I have to right click on them. Open link in new window. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Just took first place in a local tournament against some great players. It was a smaller tournament, I guess, just one day, because he just went 3-0. And he was basically saying thank you to Stephen Box and Blood Angels Commander for the awesome content, which is very kind. And this... Is this the list? Not quite. I don't know which list I want to review now. I've been looking and really enjoyed it. I know you've got a tournament coming up, so I wanted to throw a list to your CV. I had a lot of success running Patrol and Vanguard with True Redemptors and Contemptor and a lot of Sanguinary Guard. Problem was Drukhari were crushing my dreads recently, so I went back to the drawing board and thought, you know, Astaroth hasn't seen a lot of play for a long time. He might deserve another go, so here goes. So he ran Astaroth. He mentioned Astaroth in this list. He ran Astaroth in this one as well. Interesting. I don't know which list I'm going to review, or I'm going to look at both. I have a little bit of time, we could look at both. As I said, if my daughter wakes up again, I will need to go AFK again. But, okay. So the first list he submitted was a Vanguard with Astaroth with the Mantra of Strength and the Canonical Hate, Chapter Master, who is a Jump Chapter Master with Infernal Pistol Jump Pack, Mastercrafted Weapon, and I assume that would be the Thunderhammer, Heavy Intercessors with the Executioner Bolt Rifles. I believe they are... shit, I don't remember. Heavy Intercessors, Executioner Bolt Rifles are... The heavy one, Strength 5 -2 damage, okay. Then Blade Guard Veterans, he had 2 squads of 5, a Relic Contemptor with Volkites, Sanguinary Guard 5 axes, Vanguard Veterans, that's 8 with Lightning Claw Storm Shield, that's another 7 with Lightning Claw Storm Shields, and then you had 2 squads of Eradicators with the Heavy Melt Rifles and the Sergeants with Multi-Meltas. Okay, and that was 2,000 points. So that was his first list. Well, I know that the one he ran to the tournament was this list. I just don't know if he just... The problem is that the queue for lists is quite long, so he submitted this list to me on the 23rd of the October, because he's not a member, right? So, I guess the queue for non-members is about 10 weeks, so he submitted this to me basically 2 months ago. Whereas, like, he just went to tournament this week and won with this list, so this is probably the more interesting list. So that's what he had, and what he ended up changing it to was he kept Astaroth, he kept the Chapter Master, but he changed them to be more survivable, gave him Gift of Foresight, Adamantium Mantle, Angel's Artifice, rather than having the Mastercrafted Thunderhammer. And I often talk about that, actually, and say, like, it's more important. YouTube does sometimes unsubscribe you to channels, DTM, so don't worry about it. It's happened to me. He changed out so he didn't have a Tet Marine in the previous list. He now has one, and he's taken Soul Warden, so that was kind of something that I was saying to take for protection against mortal wounds. Assault Intercessors, Incursors, which was basically exactly what he had before. He had the 5-man Death Company with the 3 hammers, a Leviathan and a Redemptor. Before he just had he had the Leviathan and Redemptor. Before he had just a Relic Contemptor. Okay, so he took away the Relic Contemptor, which was arguably possibly the better pick, put in a Leviathan and a Redemptor, and then he went from 2 squads of Vanguards and 1 squad of Sanguinary Guard back to 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard and 1 squad of Vanguard, mainly axes in one, with a single Infernal Pistol and the other in swords, and Lightning Claws and Storm Shields. And then he also took those Plasma Inceptors, which I don't know he had Eradicators in the other list. Okay, so it's interesting to see how he changed it. I'm surprised he did well to win a tournament with Astaroth, because Astaroth is so overcosted in my opinion. When Astaroth was 110 points, I thought he was okay cost-wise. 150, he cannot just be 5 points less than Mephiston. That is not where he sits. Mind you, I probably feel like Mephiston's 20 points too expensive as well. Like, he just doesn't get any game time either, right? Okay, so I'm going to look at the tournament list, because that's the more interesting part. If we talk about the list he submitted to me before, I prefer the new list because it's a battalion, which means he went up to 9 CP down from 7. I also do not like Heavy Melt Rifle Eradicators. I've talked about that before. Yeah, I think Astaroth is good, but 150 points is way too much. He's got 5 wounds and toughness 4, right? Like, yeah, 5 wounds and toughness 4. 150 points. 150 points for 5 wounds, toughness 4. Seems like a lot. Seems like so many. Mephiston has toughness 5 and 6 wounds, so 1 more toughness, 1 more wound. 5 more points. More attacks as well on Mephiston, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think he's... Maybe he's not overcosted by that much, but then let's be real, like, how many people are actually playing Astaroth at a high level and making him work? Like, 1 person? this one guy that we're looking at in his list? There's no one else is running Astaroth at the moment. Okay, Astaroth, Chapter Master, the survivable one, the Tet Marine. So I was saying, I don't like the Heavy Melt Rifles. I think they're too immobile. I prefer 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard and 1 squad of Vanguard Veterans over the way that he's got this here. Blade Guard Veteran already mentioned in the stream. I find them good, but like, and I like how survivable they are with the 3 wounds, but there's an innate problem with them in that they're slow. So finding a way to run them effectively is difficult, and I think running 10 of them like he has here and not having more troops was probably the wrong choice. So, it's good that, it's nice to see the evolution of the list. So the evolution of the list was he lost the Blade Guards, picked up a battalion, he got a Tech Marine in there because he's got 2 strong dreadnoughts. He didn't have Death Company previously at all, so he brought in a squad of Death Company with hammers. He also moved to 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard and also 1 squad of Lightning Claw Vanguard veterans. And then the Interceptors, I think, are a good choice. You could have run 3 dreadnoughts, right? You could have easily gone a Leviathan and a couple of Redemptors, or, in my list I do a couple of Relic Contemptors and a Redemptor. I think if you're running a Tech Marine, 3 dreadnoughts is totally fine. 2 is good as well, but I think 3 with a Tech Marine is very good as well. But I think Plasma Eradicators against some lists in some situations can be very strong too. So, Astaroth's weapon is 3 damage, right? So, I guess that's probably why he's so expensive, in that if he manages to cast Mantra, then his weapon becomes 4 damage. The problem I see here, though, is, right, although he knows 2 litanies, Astaroth's Warlord trait should really be Wise Orator, right? He should, or it should be if Astaroth's litanies went off on a 2, then I'd be okay paying 150 points for him. Litanies on a 3, it makes it so difficult, because when your litanies go off on 3s, you almost end up having to pay CP at key points in the game just to guarantee 1 litany. And I don't like it. Litanies on 2s, though, that's why people love that chapter master the chaplain on a bike with the Wise Orator, right? So troop choices are good, Death Company is good, couple of Redemptors, a good amount of fast assault, a Tech Marine, and then Astaroth. Overall, the tournament list is a solid list. The list before, I feel has some holes, so I wouldn't even bother scoring this list for you, Jonathan. You can ping me and ask me to rescore this one if you want. But I think that the second list is way better. Like I said, I think moving towards battalions is a really good thing to have. So let's start with the second list, and let's say we're moving towards probably 8.5 for OBSEC. Anti-infantry is okay. You got 2 Redemptor. Sorry, you've got 2 dreadnoughts there, can do a bit of anti-infantry fire. You do have is that 6, 10? Yeah, 10 Angelus Bolters. So there's a little bit of anti-infantry fire. Incursors bring a little bit as well. I'd say your anti-infantry firepower is kind of lower. 3 damage weapons. We have... Oh, I forgot about your Interceptors, though, sorry. So your Interceptors probably... you don't want to be firing them at enemy infantry, but they can. The Chapter Master has 2 3 damage weapons. Astaroth has 1. Your Tech Marine has 1, so that's 4. You get 3 Thunderhammers here, that's 7. The Leviathan has a couple, that's 9. The Redemptor has a couple. You got an Infernal Pistol in here as well, so you've got about 12 3 damage weapons, so that's good. We also have 11 Sanguinary Guard axes. That's solid anti-armor. There's Death Company hammers. I think your anti-armor is about as high as it needs to be. Mobility-wise, this list is more mobile than the previous one. I think the Dreadnoughts aren't super mobile, but they don't need to be. And then the only other thing that's not mobile, I guess, is your Assault Intercessors and your Tech Marine. I think your Tech Marine's kind of mobile anyway, because you can just advance them all the time and just shoot the Forge Bolter. So I think mobility here is 8 as well. And specialization, maybe I'll even go in 8.5 on this mobility. We don't have a Fight Last, and we don't have Denies, we've got units for actions. We've got the 3 damage weapons. I think we're starting on 9 CP, which is really good. And protection against mortal wounds, we do have that, in that we have our Soul Warden on our Tech Marines. So I think maybe like a point off for no denies, or fight last maybe. So like, yeah, something like that, I think. That could maybe even be 8. I think on other lists I've maybe taken 2 points off for missing 2 key things like that. But, I mean, overall I think this is what I was saying earlier in the stream about, like, pick 4 out of 6 of these things and do 4 out of 6 of them really well. Now, if you do 4 out of 6 of them really well, then you, on top of building a strong, balanced killie list, then you can probably finish pretty high in tournament. Everyone taking Bite Chaplains at Litany on 3+ and Soul Warden's fine. I mean, you can take an extra Litany besides Faith. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are just taking the Bite Chaplains on the Litanies on 3+. It's difficult though, right? Like, so you're in a situation where you're able to make a charge with Astaroth on your Death Company, for example, and you've got 2 litanies to cast. You want to cast Litany of Hate so your Death Company can reroll all those hammers. You want to cast Mantra of Strength so Astaroth can have a 4 damage weapon. And you've got to do them on 3 Steel Rain. Like, hypothetically in that situation, what do you do? Do you pay 2 CP to guarantee Litany of Hate goes off so that all the Death Company hammers can hit, and you take the hit and you don't have the 4 damage Crozius? Like, that's the situation that I find myself in with Litanies on 3s. I think it makes it very difficult to know what to do. Some situations maybe it's not a problem. It's worth thinking about though, right? Okay, so I think his new list is much better. And I think it does 4 out of those 6 things really well. And congratulations, Jonathan, for winning that GT. That is funny. Or it wasn't a GT, it was a smaller tournament, maybe like an RTT, whatever they call those. But that is funny that you literally... If I'd done this stream when it was meant to go out last week, the only reason it didn't go out last week is because, like, you know, all the stuff going on with my second son, or my second child, which is a son, is still in hospital, so I didn't manage to do the stream last week. So if I'd done it last week, I'd have reviewed his crappy list and made critiques on it, and then it would have been the same time as he'd gone on to win that tournament with a new version of the list. Take the Death Company. So why are you taking Astaroth then? Because I've not been running Astaroth. I don't know if do I feel Astaroth is better than a Bike Chaplain? It's a tough question, actually. Like, I don't know if I would run Astaroth over a Bike Chaplain at the moment. He's going to be 10 points more expensive, right? I guess... Yeah. 10 points more expensive, and I mean, the main thing that he brings is the +1 damage on his weapon, but he's like 1 less toughness and 2 less wounds than a Bike Captain. Did we get a name for the mini BAC? Michael will be the name for my child. My dad's name is Michael, and he passed away maybe like 9 or 10 years ago now, so if I had a boy I would have liked to name him Michael, so that's what we're going. 7 attack, strength 7, -4, damage 4. Oh yeah, strength 7 I guess because of the +1. So 7 attacks. Hitting on 2s. -4, 4 damage. So in some ways, he's kind of like a Smash Captain, I guess. But I don't know if Last edition, I loved Smash Captains. I mean, this edition, I don't know, not so much. But yeah, no, everything's going well. They said we might get the baby home from hospital this week, Mark. So we're kind of fingers crossed that that's going to happen. But no, things have been progressing well. So thanks for asking. Astaroth can be a mini blender. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, he does have the nice... he does have that nice thing that means Death Company don't need to take any leadership tests, which is nice. But I mean, I think the way most people run Death Company now is they're like a Forlorn Fury model unit early in the game, so maybe it doesn't matter all that much because the Death Company are unlikely to be alive later in the game. I mean, maybe I need to try Astaroth. 150 points. If he was like a 10 points less, maybe. Yeah, 35 points more than the base Bike Chaplain. But Astaroth does know 2 litanies on top of Massive Doom. And I assume he knows Litany of Hate. Yeah, okay, he knows Litany of Hate as well. And I used to love Massive Doom. I think the thing that put me off Massive Doom is that the one model is destroyed. But Massive Doom used to be everybody within so many inches. Now it's just a single unit, so maybe Massive Doom isn't so bad. Okay, I'm looking forward to that Steel Rain. Have I got your list up for a review soon? Let me see. Lists. Next week. Oh, Steel Rain, you're up next week. Perfect. Okay. Cool. I should be live next week. Might not be the exact right time, but I should be able to be live next week. I'm going to wrap it here, though, guys, because my daughter has not woken up again, and I think we're probably only in a matter of time before she wakes up again. So, congratulations to Jonathan for both the highest scoring list this week and also for winning a tournament. I hope that the other comments and thoughts that I made this week were interesting. Thank you ever so much to everybody that's watching tonight and also that watched the videos this week. And also, yeah, I mean, like, I know that there hasn't been as much content as I normally put out, so I appreciate you guys so much. I was sure that we were going to get a ton of unsubscribes to the channel because I've been so busy. So no, I appreciate you guys being here, especially on short notice tonight. I didn't even know if anyone would be here at all, so thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, I would love to play a game of 40k. I can't even remember the last time I played a game of 40k, honestly. So, since I've played one game since the GT I played. No, sorry, I've played 2 games since the GT I played, I think, like, around here? Yeah, I think this was it. So I think I've played... I don't know, I think I've played like 2 games in a month. I'm missing it. I'm hoping to get... I'd love to get a game. Oh, and yeah, we do have a new episode of The Grots coming out as well. Thanks for reminding me, Tony. This week's episode on The Grots should be pretty funny. Which is... We haven't got a title yet, but we will have a title. But it's going to be a fun episode. It's probably our longest episode yet, to be honest, as well. So yeah, I'm not going to risk it any longer. I'm going to call it there. Thank you again for watching. I'll be back as soon as I can, and I'll have some more videos, of course, lined up. If I get my family home this week, then that means we'll actually get some child-free time to do something. Cool. Alright, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you all very soon. And maybe over Christmas we'll get back to the tabletop for some sort of... I haven't crushed Andrew in a while, so I'm sure I can get on and do that. So, alright. Enjoy your Sunday, guys. By the blood are we made strong. Catch you all soon. Peace.